What's up, everyone? It's Wacko. Welcome you to my draft analysis of SSSDL Season 4. Last season I took off because they did monotype. I didn't want to do monotype, so I skipped it and I did CLDL. I probably would have done, if it was just a regular season, I probably would have done both CLDL and SSSDL. And I kind of missed out because I feel like if I had just drafted stuff, I could have had more stuff on their all time stats doc, and I would have been there for every season. Um, Seems like I kind of skip out on season threes. I think I skipped out on CLDL season 3 as well. Or actually, I think that was season 4 I skipped out. Um, Either way, we're back though. It's no longer monotype, and I've rebranded for at least this season. So I've decided to rebrand to the Queef Quills because, well, somewhat because um, me and Wisdom were going to do, well, we did a duos league, and we were like, oh, let's make a logo and like a new team name, and we both love Quillfish a lot. However, they didn't really take our logo because they just took our names because I guess that's just kind of how you do like small like off season tournaments. So we didn't end up getting you to use the Queef Quills logo, but I am going to use it now. And this is like a smaller league that would allow it anyways, so I don't have to worry about people throwing a hissy fit about it. Even though it's not even like, I don't know, Queef is not even spelled correctly, so it's like whatever, you know? Anyways, before going into the draft, I will say this is a live draft, and I made quite a few mistakes in the draft because I ended up getting sniped quite a bit. I made some really stupid plays too in the draft. I could have prevented a snipe if I was just like smart. However, I was not very smart, and I chose to trust a wheel over my fucking instinct. So, with that said, with that said, my round one pick is Tornado's Therian, and I actually have two round one picks. So what I did was I traded with Wisdom. Um, he gave me his pick 4. I also had pick 10, but I also had to give him my round 2 and my round 3. So it was my first two picks, and then I had to wait until round 4, which was like pick 47, before I got to pick again. Which I think in the long run was a huge mistake. So yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate that it kind of ended up being a mistake because I think I could have ended up with a solid team if I didn't do that. But we're gonna work with what we have, and I think what we do have is still works. Torrent is still all reliable. This is my 11th time drafting this Pokemon. I'm not even kidding. This is my 11th time using it, and every time I've used it, I think it's made playoffs, maybe except one time, and it wasn't really because Torn was like bad or anything. It was just like I was unlucky. I might have even dropped it like midway through the season. Um, it was just a weird season I had with it, and I was not in a good mental state at the time. That was like 2 years ago almost. Holy shit. But yeah, this thing has good stats, really good speed tier. Workable attack stats on both sides. It has workable bulk because of regen. It can even run defensive or AV. I love superpower eject pack sets with acro. Plot is pretty good. Torn's biggest issue is hitting its moves, but I think with the team I have around it, I don't think it's going to matter too much because I think I can miss a move, pivot out, and then come back in and try again later. And I think Torn isn't really valuable until you pair it with like other regen mons. So yeah, spoiler alert, I am a degenerate regenerator in this draft. And it's been a while since I've done double or even like triple regen. So watch yourselves. Now let me make sure I'm just recording. I end up stopping my recording last time because I felt like something was off. So I restarted. Next up, we have Mega Mawile. Now, this wasn't actually my round 2 pick. This was technically a round 4 pick. Um, and by round 4, I mean this was my third pick. I ended up drafting Latios at pick 10, but I ended up dropping Latios because I got sniped throughout the draft. And I felt like I had to work around those snipes, and unfortunately, Latios like it fit the team, but it felt like it didn't really fit the team in the best way. Um, there's other psychic types that I think pair better into this team, and because I felt like Mega Mawile was the best steal and like the best fairy on the board. It's not really like a real fairy type in my opinion, but um, you know, I think it's fine. Like fairies are overrated anyways, you know. So yeah, I mean it's whatever. This thing has I think the highest attack stat of all time. Um, Paired with huge power. Mega Medicham is pretty close, but this one's a little bit higher. I would like to know what its effective base stat total is with like Adamant 252 huge power. Like I'd love to see like what that number actually is because I think Azumarill with huge power is like 170. Um, and I think Azumarill is actually kind of weak, but it might not be 170. It might be like 130. Digger's B might be like 140 ish, but this is like twice as high. Like this might even be like 250 base attack, you know. It is pretty tanky. 125 defense is pretty all right. 50 HP isn't the greatest, but Diancie can make it work no problem. I mean its defenses are way lower than Diancie's, but it also has a better defensive typing, and it's not meant to really take hits as much as it does, just dish them out. But I think Mega Mawile is one of those mons that's like super hard to just OHKO, so I'm not too worried about it. Next up, we have Samurott Round 2E. This was a mon I picked up in Grace. I was kind of surprised it was on the board because it was like 14 points. And I was like, oh, it's pretty cheap compared to like what it usually is. I think 14, 13 is like where it should be probably. But there was so many other mons that were cheap anyways. So I was like, you know what? I don't mind slotting this on. I was sniped from Weavile, and I made a pretty poor decision as well. I think round 4, round 5, I picked up Nihiligo over Crook. I spun a wheel to choose which one I was going to get first, and the wheel picked Nihiligo, so I picked up Nihiligo. I was like, you know, I'll just get Crook next round. However, Ystream took Crook literally a pick before me, and I was like, well, I'm kind of fucked, aren't I? Because I don't know what to do. And then I think I end up picking Swampert. And now, spoiler, Swampert is not actually on this team anymore, so Samurott Hisui kind of replaced, like, everything that I was going to get. It was supposed to be Weavile. I didn't get Weavile. I was supposed to get Crook. Didn't get Crook. And it was tough because the dark types were kind of going away fast, and I feel like people like doubled up on dark types because I don't feel like drafting a dark type was like this. It hasn't been this hard since Gen 8, even like early Gen 8. I thought about picking up Urshifu in Grace as well. Urshifu single strike was sitting there, and I think Shifu actually paired well. Not exactly with like Mawile, but with the psychic type that I'm going to talk about pretty soon. So yeah. However, Samurott round 2E, it does have sharpness, so its attack stat is like effectively much better, especially with the Razor Shell, Ceaseless Edge, Sacred Sword. It gets Aqua Jet, Sucker Punch, Knockoff, Sucker Punch, Flip Turn. So yeah, I'm excited to use Samurott round 2E. I did draft this mon like once before, but I think I dropped it after like one use, and that was back when it was like 10 points too. Like I feel like just did not know what I was missing out on dropping this thing for 10 points, but um, you know, sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles. I've done the same thing with G King in the past. I think when G King was like 12, 13 points, I dropped it for fucking Toxapex. Boy, was I wrong about G King back then. Um, I think I like G King. I just wanted to use Toxapex, but that's besides the point. Um, yeah, Samurai Hisui. Oh, and by the way, I do not have nicknames yet. I will probably reveal the nicknames as the weeks go on. So, yeah. Zeraora is next. This was another mon. Actually, no, I did not pick this up in Grace. I was actually between this and Samurott in the draft. I know they're like completely different mons, but um, it was gonna be either Zeraora and Pangoro, which Pangoro was what my dark type ended up being for the time, or it was gonna be Samurott Hisui and Palmont. However, I was like, oh, Zeraora is here, and it's still here, and it was 14 points. This was like my round 8 pick, I think. And the fact that Zeraora was there for 14 points, the reason it was 14 points is because they put Mons on sale that have never been drafted in the server before. And I thought it was interesting that Zero has never been drafted. Because it's so fast. It's not the strongest thing, but it's a physical electric type that doesn't rely on Supercell Slam or Thunder Punch. Even with Punching Glove, like Drain Punch, Plasma, I would think Plasma Fist is boosted by um, Punching Glove. I think if it's boosted by Iron Fist, right? This thing doesn't get Iron Fist, but I think if you could get Iron Fist on it, then it would boost the damage. I'd have to double check that, but I think Zera has potential to be a good Punching Glove user. Um, it also gets like Fire Punch, I believe. Maybe Ice Punch, probably not. But yeah, it has some good stuff. Because of its speed, it can actually be pretty bulky. Apparently, this thing is part of Petron's clan with the 88 HP as well, so I like that. Um, Electric type with Volt Absorb. I've been loving my Volt Absorbers lately. Especially because my ground type isn't like the bulkiest thing ever, and it gives me a little bit more leeway with switching into electric types. So yeah, that's Zeraora. Next up, we have Nidoking. Now this is my first time using Nidoking, and I'm pretty excited about it. I don't know if he's better than Queen, but he was a point cheaper, and I think Queen was gone. I also picked up Nidoking in Grace. This was my Nihiligo replacement. So basically, Nihiligo Crook turned into Samurott, Round 2 and Nidoking. This thing's pretty solid though, and I think at this point, even though it's not as tanky, its speed tier is still like not the best, but I think it's good to scarf with Modest, or because a lot of teams are just a lot faster than it anyways. Like I feel like most things below 85 speed tier like don't even run speed anymore unless they're like creeping something, and if like I wanted to creep with Nidoking to out creep something, I could do that. I could run Modest and like pretty bulky. And I think theoretically this thing is just better than Nidoqueen at this point. Um, I think it's a little bit stronger. It might not be as bulky, but I think being a little bit stronger is going to be very solid for it. I've used Queen in the past, and I feel like Nidoqueen is strong, but sometimes it just barely misses those rolls, or like it barely misses like those two shots. But I think Nidoking can. It just depends on how I want to play with it. And speaking of kings, we got the double king core, the double Gen 1 king core, Slow King. I cannot escape this mon, guys. I'm sorry that Slow King is on like all of my teams lately, but like it's either Slow King or Galarian Slow King, and like they're on 50% of my drafts at this point. They might even be on over 50%. This might be like my 7th time using regular Slow King. And typically I think regular Slow King, I either end up dropping midway through the season or like something, I don't know. I think I've dropped it like 2 or 3 times. However, I've been kind of just keeping it lately, and I'm like, well, Chili Reception's nice. Future Sight Teleport is nice. This is the mon I was talking about pairing with Mega Mawile over Latios, because Latios doesn't get Trick Room. I think Latios does, but Latios got taken like round 2. I'm like, well, I don't want to fucking ask for Latios. But yeah, Trick Room Teleport, very nice. Future Sight Teleport into like Mawile or Samurott, very nice. Or even like Zeraora, because Zera is like effectively a fighting type with the CC, a Drain Punch. This is also filling my hole with these special attackers and kind of adding a secondary water, because Samurai round 2 like isn't like the best thing in the world to be a water type. And it's giving me a regen core with Torn. I don't know if I said it in this recording because I had failed my recording on accident. Um, but I love pairing Torn T with other regen mons. Not because it's like a silly idea, but I think it's just good because it allows things to pivot in on for Torn when Torn might miss Hurricane or Bleak Wind, and then I can pivot and then try again later, and it allows me to just like pivot a little bit more. Even if games are like slightly longer and it's more pivot spammy, if I choose to even like just pivot into like Mawile or like Samurott or Zera to get off a big hit, like I think that so far that I think it's very solid. Now you might be wondering like, why? How come you haven't like talked about Terra yet? And while unfortunately they banned Terra for the season, but we do instead of Terra we have Z captains now. And my round four pick, I should maybe just put them in pick order, the best I could have. But there were so many things that I picked up in Grace. I picked up both Nidoking and Slowking in Grace because originally Slowking was Swampert, for a ground typing, but Slowking fit a lot better as a Trick Room Chili Reception user for Torn and Mawile. I picked up Silvally. Silvally is my Z captain. This mon was 8 points. It has never been drafted before and it was already cheap from last season because of monotype. If you drafted Silvally, you could only run like, so if you're like Silvally, or if you're like mono fire, you could only run Silvally fire. So Jaden put it at like 9 points. For a mon that basically has like Mew stats, a little bit worse than Mew stats, but it has like Defog, Parting Shot. Big reason I drafted this guy is because of Z Parting Shot. I think Z Parting Shot is very solid, especially for like Mawile if I want to go into that. Um, I can full heal. I would say maybe Z Parting Shot isn't like the most necessary thing on a team that has a lot of regen spam. But like I think potentially slow pivoting with Silvally with Z Parting Shot could be good. Um, it is a little bit different than Healing Wish, I believe. I don't think it heals status conditions, which is kind of iffy because I don't think I have a cleric on this team. Unfortunately, um, I think the clerics I was going to pick up just kind of got taken. So I was like, well, I click Heal Bell like maybe like twice a year, anyways. So maybe we're good. We can play this like Gen 9. Honestly, playing in Palliadex has like really shifted my mind on like, oh, playing bulky and like not hitting back. Like clicking Wish Protect is just not good anymore. Clicking Heal Bell like isn't even worth it anymore. Like I don't know. I feel like having a cleric is like kind of overrated at this point. So I'm not too worried about it. This thing does get like Roar, which is nice. And I think for the most part, I'm going to be using this as a normal type with defensive utility, just to get in my other mons safely, or just chipping things down. But it can do other things too. I would love to run like Swords Dance Flame Charge sets with like a Z move, or even just like Z nuke something, even. So I think that could be very good. I think Silvally is still a good mon. For 10 points with Z, Jaden put Z tax on things, which made me really not even want to draft a Z captain. But I think Silvally for 10 with the Z tax was solid because usually this mon's like 12. And I will take this for 10. So my next mon is going to be Tauros Pelia Blaze. I believe I picked this up in Grace as well. I think my fire type before was like Simisear. I really wanted Z Rapidash because Rapidash didn't have a Z tax and it had a lot of coverage that I would have liked, like player off low kick, high horsepower, drill run. Well, probably high horsepower over drill run, but yeah. Um, However, I picked up Tauros because it was open. It gave me room for an Intimidate Mon. For a team that like isn't like super bulky, it could be useful to have Intimidate. It could also be useful to switch in on stuff like Meowscarada Flower Trick or something, or um, I don't know. It can switch in on like crit moves. I don't think any of the Shifus got picked up anyways, so it might not be too useful to run Anger Point, but I could. Cud Chew's also pretty decent. Honestly, you could run Anger Point on like a set if you don't want to like activate like competitive like Empoleon or like Articuno Gal or Kilowattrel or stuff like that. I could run Anger Point if I'm not running like a berry. So it's not a useless ability. I mean, all three of its abilities are good. I'd love to experiment with Cudchew as well. Um, but yeah, I think it could be good. I actually just thought of a set like in my head just now, and I'm like, I'm excited to see if I could like try it maybe. I did draft this Mon I think twice before. I actually drafted it with Mega Mawile once, and let me say, the time I drafted Mega Mawile Tauros Paldia Blaze ended with me dropping the league. I'm hoping that doesn't happen again because I also said that about Blastoise and EDC, and then I end up actually kind of liking Blastoise. Blastoise was not that bad, but Blastoise isn't on this team. Probably would have been pretty good on this team if I kept like Latios, because my removal is just Torn Silvally, so it's a little yikes. Let me just say. And my next amount is gonna be Hydrapple. I did say I might have 2 or 3 regen users on this team. Here he is, and I also fucked up his abilities. He also has a third ability, does he not? I'm gonna check on my phone so I don't have to click on something. No, not ladder. Team builder. Hydrapple. Sticky hold. Sticky hold is his other ability. I'm not gonna type that in, but it's sticky hold. And it'll probably never do that because regen is always better. What does Super Sweet Syrup do? On the switch in, this Pokemon lowers the evasiveness of the opponent's one stage once per battle. Wait, so it's why couldn't I just do that every time it comes in? So it could come in and like click Draco or something. That's kind of bad. Sticky hold is interesting, but I think regenerator is always like better. Um, I've seen A12 cook with this mon a lot, and this mon has never been drafted in SSSDL, which is surprising because it's like new toy syndrome. Somewhat, I mean, like it is technically like one of the newer Pokemon to come out as of lately, I guess. Um, but like the fact that it hasn't been drafted yet is insane to me. Its stats actually kind of mirror Slowking stats. Its defense is 110, Speed F is 80, so it has basically Slowbro bulk, which is exciting. Um, Even with more HP, it's like technically it's tankier than Slowbro, and it's even stronger on both sides, and it's faster. Um, Not that the speed might matter, but you know what? I've seen A12 cook with the speed tier before, so he has inspired me to use this mon. Um, and it's funny because their aura was going to be Raikou as well, and he has a lot of opinions about Raikou. So yeah, Hydrapple's cool. I love that I can pair it with Slowking Torn T. Doesn't really pivot, but you don't know. I have some tricks up my sleeve with it. Fickle Beam is also a really funny button to click. Just having that like sometimes it just double. I think it does it double in power. I think it doubles in power like randomly, like a 30% chance. So I think that's a funny thing to fuck with. Might not even want Draco Meteor. Yeah. And our last mon's gonna be Frostlass. Frostlass is just kind of there to kind of fill the speed gap between Tauros and Torn. I don't think Frostlass is amazing. I also want to Z cap it, but he put the Z tax at like an extra point, which I didn't have an extra point. I could have also done Terra Cryogonal, or not Terra, Z Cryogonal, but I was like, that thing's like super hella walled. Frostlass at least has some like weird coverage, and I think Ice Ghost is like pretty unwallable. I mean, it's like walled by like what, Weavile? Weavile's getting two-shot by like Axel. So yeah. 70 isn't like the worst bulk ever. Like it takes a hit. I mean, this mon looks frail as fuck. But I think it'll take a hit. Its offenses aren't like amazing, but it does have strong moves like Axel Poltergeist. Um, and sometimes you just have to lean into like choice band or choice specs anyways. Um, it also gets like taunt wisp spikes. Um, and I can imagine myself running those as well. But I haven't used Frostlass before, and I think it was about time that I've put Frostlass on a team. And yeah, with that said, here's the full team together. I kind of felt like most of my team didn't have like synergies, but I liked the. I feel like Samurott looks like a mon that would try to protect like Mawile, because Mawile is like a little innocent thing. I mean, it's really not, but like, it's. I don't know. Mega Mawile is a cute mon. I like the King Core with Slowking Tauros, and then there's like Tauros that's trying to get in on the action because it's technically a Gen 1 mon, and Tauros was the king of Gen 1. So I thought the three of them together was like really funny. Torn's a big bird guy, Frostlass floats, Zera just kind of jumps everywhere. I don't know. And then I have Hydrapple in the corner because I thought it was funny looking. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Um, Hopefully this gets up on YouTube pretty soon. And I will see you guys for week 1.